My name is Kevin Bevan. I'm president of GBI Cincinnati. We are an importer and reseller of large high-end metal cutting equipment. My career started back in Cincinnati Millicron. I was with them, oh gracious, 25 years. Been off on my own for over 10 or 15 years. So been in the business for a little bit of time here. My main background has been around manufacturing management, new product development, distribution and sales. Since starting GBI in 2003, excuse me, I've been primarily working with customers to help them improve their productivity and efficiency with the equipment that we import. Throughout my career, I've learned, or at least one of the things I think I've learned well, is that for US manufacturers to compete, we have to be at the head of the technology curve. If all we're going to do is try to compete on low cost, there's too many other suppliers out there, a myriad of them, that we lost a lot of business in offshoring to China. It becomes very hard for American companies to compete just on low cost. And that is why we've spent a lot of effort trying to find niche products that can help each of the customers that we work with be more effective, more efficient, more productive, so that they can hopefully offer their products and services at a better price and a better quality. So it's with that in mind, and seeing that many of the machine tool builders, actually, I primarily import machines from Germany, and they were one of the first to come out with the Industry 4.0 standards, the smart sensors, and offer all of that on the machines themselves. But they didn't really do a lot to help companies then take that information and make it factory-wide, make it usable. It was basically available to an operator. Yes, they could send alert messages and things to a smartphone, but there wasn't really a way for that information to be readily made available throughout the factory and used properly. And so that is why when we ran across Maxbyte Technologies, we saw a very, very good opportunity to partner with them so that jointly we can offer our customers, again, more value and help them with their path forward for a successful implementation of Industry 4.0. With the recent advent of the COVID-19 virus and its impact on all of our businesses, and how this is going to, how we're going to have to probably work differently in the future, that's when we decided to put this brief presentation together, taking advantage of some of our expertise and Maxbyte's expertise. And as we say, how can we digitize to accelerate out of a crisis? So we're going to go through a few slides. We're going to have a little bit of a Q&A. I'll ask if I can, I'll ask Ram, who is the CEO of Maxbyte. He's also going to be involved in the Q&A. But Ram, if you might just give the group a brief overview of your background and experience, and then I'll go through the rest of the slides.
Sure. Thank you, Kevin. So hello, everyone. I am Ramshankar from Maxbyte. So I am actually the Chief Executive Officer of Maxbyte Technologies. So we majorly, work on the industrial digitization solution on enterprise level. So we offer the end-to-end solutions. We provide the sensors, the data acquisitions, and then the software for the analytics, and also the the artificial intelligence technology specifically for manufacturing. And also, we majorly focus on how to bring the systems more structurally and implement and transform the manufacturing customers for their productivity, for their flexibility, and for their sustainability. So in that angle, we are associated with GBI, especially with Kevin, for the last more than I would say for 2 years of engagement we have with them. And so we thought we want to bring a knowledge to the community of the manufacturing people, especially in the USA region, how a structured way of transforming that awareness is lacking here. So we thought we thought of doing some webinar series. So in that is the first series what we have started here. We are looking forward for long more here. And so today's session is specifically on digitize to accelerate out of the crisis, where now the COVID-19 and the coronavirus crisis we are in. But this kind of a technology like digitization technology, how that can help a manufacturing company to properly and structurally use it to come out of it. We strongly believe in those technology. We thought of sharing such knowledge to you so that you can get out of it and take it to your company and transform it. So that's a quick introduction. I'll leave it to Kevin to have a presentation on the topic. Followed by that, we have a quick Q&A sessions for the day. So
Okay.
yeah, Kevin.
Thanks very, very much, Ron, for the overview. Yeah, again, the agenda, we're going to cover very briefly the what we call our Industry 4.0 Accelerator Program. Ram and I will then have, based on the experiences Ram has said over the last year and a half of engaging with some of the customers over in the States, and also they have a vast experience with customers over in Europe and India, et cetera. We've got a couple questions and answers that we'll go through ourselves, and then we may have a couple, if there's time, we'll have a little question and answer session with the group. Okay, as Ram pointed out, the coronavirus, the COVID-19 crisis has affected all of us, and it's destroyed real value across the globe. As we enter into the recovery phase, which hopefully we're all in right now, and if the governors don't shut us back down, the next months are going to be dominated by some volatility, uncertainty. I know there was, in Ohio anyway, there was an announcement yesterday by the governor. And to be brutally honest, I was extremely concerned that he might have further lockdowns. He didn't. He just asked people to continue wearing masks, et cetera. But that is a definite concern that if more cases come, we may be faced with further lockdowns, which we hope not. So from our standpoint, this phase is unprecedented, but it presents also a unique window of opportunity to get ahead of the competition. We always used to say in the days back at Cincinnati Millicron that, in a downturn, those companies who would continue to invest in advertising and promoting their products, they were the ones who would come back out after the downturn. They would be stronger for it. The guys who necessarily pulled in and didn't spend any money, it was kind of hard for them to continue. And we sometimes think that that's basically what's going to happen here, that the crisis will produce winners and losers across all industries. And to benefit from this, the companies that act fast and quickly to build their supply chains, reduce their cost base, free up cash, and relaunch into digital, which is what we're going to talk about here, we think that they're probably going to be much better positioned for success in the long term. As you can see here from this slide, right now, industrial companies, about 90% of them have already invested in some type of digital technologies. And these two customers or these two quotes here, you can see a lot of them are saying that with this current market conditions, it's going to be even more important that manufacturers and all different types of companies, this is not just for machine tool manufacturers and the type of customers that I sell to, I will have an opportunity to expand and talk to all different types of businesses that this will be applicable for. So again, we see a huge opportunity here. The challenges for us, as you can see here, right now about 15% of manufacturers are invested in some form of IoT technology. They tend to be the larger production facilities, a lot of automation and things of that nature, deeper pockets maybe. But if you look at what the projections are, they're saying in the next 5 years, that 15% growth is expected to grow to 65%. And again, as we covered in the previous slide, experts are saying that those who quickly adopt this technology will have a competitive advantage, and we firmly agree with that. But the problems that we also have is right now, even getting guys to join a seminar like this, everybody's focused, their heads are on, the business of the day. They've maybe reopened. They've got a lot of things that they're concerned about, and maybe they're not worrying about things that we're talking about here, but they need to be exposed to it. Because if we look at the challenges, there's going to be work to be done here. And even for the CEO or the CTO, there's different types of information and challenges than there is for the CIO and the CDO. So if you look over at a CEO, for example, they're going to be having to worry about the operations visibility, what the production is, how accurate their forecasting is. They're reactive to delivery delays and how they can maintain customer demand, et cetera. The lagging awareness of what things cost. This is a key issue that in today's environment, It's going to affect everybody, but as this COVID is impacting us more and more, it's going to affect them even more, and they may have less time to focus on these things as they're trying to worry about other things within their business. Same thing for a CIO, the digital awareness. Many companies may have heard of Industry 4.0, they may have heard of the acronym IIoT, but they don't have any clue whatsoever where to start. They don't know what it's going to be for them. They hear it as a buzzword, so they may be aware of it, but they don't know what it's going to mean for their company. They don't know how and if they're going to get implemented into this type of strategy over the next 2 to 3 to 4 years. And if they do, what is the type of return on investment they might see? So there's all these challenges that it's a pretty daunting challenge for somebody that doesn't really have a partner, and that's what we're bringing to the table. Somebody who has got the expertise, somebody who has already done this for numerous other companies, that we can help them through the process. So when we look at this chart is representing a myriad of options or digital use cases, as we call them, for a shop floor. Maxbyte has been involved in every single one of these. So if you look at the experience level, even during this crisis scenario that the COVID has presented for us, these types of systems can help a factory to operate more efficiently through the use of technologies such as IoT, immersive technology, artificial intelligence and robotics, and a connected and a smarter remote access workforce. So if you look at the types of things that we're talking about here, we're talking about from a shop floor standpoint and a remote factory performance monitoring, where the management, the heads of the divisions can all see what's going on with their equipment. We can do things like, we're going to talk about a little bit later, an example of one of what we call a pilot program that we've done for a local customer of mine, where if you look up at item number 18, where we're doing remote monitoring of the overall equipment effectiveness, the conditioning monitoring of the machine itself. If you look at 16, that's remote energy utility analysis. We've been doing these things and showing them the benefits of what we're able to do. But all of this we're going to talk a little bit in the next slide about the COVID and smart technologies for number 11, smart wearable workforce tracking and health monitoring. All of these types of things, we can work with a customer to provide them a roadmap of where they stand and how these types of new technologies can help them to be more effective and more competitive as they come out of this crisis. This is, again, when we talk about with the advent of COVID, 6 months ago, we didn't have this, but Maxbyte has got some really, really unique solutions, I think, that we're going to talk about in the Q&A session about what is going on at the forefront of industry leaders. Right now, I don't care what business you're in, the competence level that employees can come back to work and be safe, the confidence level that the supply chain is going to interact with our employees and still not spread this virus. This is huge. And so if you look what COVID has brought to the table, you go to a restaurant nowadays. I go get my hair cut. They finally open up hair salons, et cetera, and barbershops. First thing you have to do is have your temperature checked to make sure you don't have a fever. All of these types of technologies, from initially the smart health scanning, Maxbyte can bring this to the table for a company where with facial recognition, they can test the temperature of an employee, they can track their health monitoring, if you will, versus just having to have an employee come in and have somebody scan their head with a temperature reader and maybe on an Excel sheet keep track of it. We can automate all these things. We can bring in the smart tag workforce with an RFID tag so that we can literally monitor the employees. And I know it sounds a little bit like Big Brother, and to some degree, I think it's going to be a challenge, but maintaining that social distancing in a workforce environment, in a factory environment, is going to be not easy to monitor and enforce without technology like this. Delivery of goods within a factory with the Mark Smart Robot. All of these different things we can bring to the table for companies that are looking to improve their productivity, number one, but also react to this COVID virus and be able to efficiently and safely bring their employees back into work. So this is another offering that we're starting to work with some of the customers. Okay, again, just a quick overview. Industry 3.0, we're all aware of that. Most of us know what that is. And this chart is showing the phases leading from Industry 3.0 up towards a full implementation of Industry 4.0. The Industry 3.0, as we know, is the implementation of computerization, automation, and connectivity with IT systems. But as a company transitions on through the Industry 4.0, that's now going to provide more visibility, the transparency, the predictability, and finally, the autonomous adaptable systems that we can add value for our business. Gathering the needed data to see what is happening is the first step. Understanding why and what is happening is the second step, and then being able to predictably forecast what and how things will happen is where we're really going to be at the forefront of Industry 4.0. So with Maxbyte's Accelerator Program, this steps a company through these visibility, transparency, predictability, and adaptability in a smooth, logical step where it would be very hard for them to do on their own. This chart is showing the various industry level use cases that can transform them from the visibility stage, the transparency, the predictability, and adaptability on the left. And again, over on the right, the value of seeing what happens, why does it happen, what will happen from a forecasting, and then finally the self-optimization. All of this is through implementing things like your CRM systems, your ERP systems. Forecasting of what will be able to happen is achieved through the implementation of various tools and applications that Maxbyte brings to the table, enabling us to provide predictive and proactive decision-making. The final stage, the adaptability and the self-optimization, is achieved through the implementation of autonomous systems, intelligent industries, and artificial intelligence. So this, again, is something that we've done for many other companies and that we're going to start working with more and more of the manufacturing companies here in the US. We're starting with the companies that I've already engaged and or sold machine tools to, and expanding it out from there. This process that we talked about, the smarter way to transform, Maxbyte uses this systematic approach, and we have basically the 4 phases. The discover phase helps an organization understand why, what, and how to transform. It identifies the company's current state of the Industry 4.0 maturity level, and it compares those with global standards. So it will give a company an evaluation of how they, within their organization, stack up against their peers within that industry segment. Then the next goal is to give them and generate a roadmap over the next 3 to 5 years on how they can fill those technology voids and gaps to become fully Industry 4.0 competent. The startup phase is what we would begin with any company to involve, and what we typically bring in there is up to maybe 10 use cases, which from the one slide that we showed you all the different things that Maxbyte can offer. We've worked with the one local company that we're going to share with you. We're bringing in a couple of the use cases, which was the OEE and the predictive maintenance and the energy monitoring. So we might choose up to 3 to 5, up to 10 of those cases. Prove the concept. Once we've proved the concept, shown the value, which you can see over on the right-hand side, can be anywhere from a 2 to a 5% cost of goods savings, anywhere from a 3 to a 5% energy or utility savings, and the real big one, a 20% productivity improvement through the workforce. Once we've proven that, then we take the company up through the local scale, which typically involves implementation on a plant-wide level of up to maybe 100 use cases. Then finally, with a global scale up, that would be if a company has multiple different locations, multiple different manufacturing plants across, whether it's one location or multiple locations. So this is the step-by-step process that Maxbyte has used to implement everything to the point where we're showing those benefits of the 5% cost of goods, the 5% utility, and up to the 20% improvement in the productivity. Okay, with the advent of coronavirus and the pandemic, many of the experts are saying that digitization is no longer a good thing to have, it's becoming a must thing to have. As we all know, most of the states within the United States have been under this stay-at-home order. Some of them have relaxed, some of them haven't. And we've been practicing safe distancing. All states and businesses, as we start to reopen, need to worry about providing, as I said earlier, providing safe working environments for our employees, safe interactions with their customers, and it is going to be of utmost importance. Consumer and workforce confidence must be gained for these businesses to reopen. In addition, adjusting to the 9 to 5 working hours and having employees work remotely has been huge for many companies. Many companies that I've spoken to have seen that some of their employees do not need to physically come into what we call the normal factory, if you will, or the shop floor. And I think you're going to see a lot of the trends where wherever possible, people are going to be working from home. And that's going to be different for businesses. What tools do they need to put in place? Zoom meetings, which we're having today, remote connectivity. I have probably since the shutdown, where I typically would get on a plane or get in a car and drive to a customer. Right now, they may not even want to see people in their facility. It's becoming a lot easier for them to say, let's schedule a Zoom conference or a live webinar. So these things, whether we realize it or not, even after the majority of this virus is over, it's changing the way people are thinking about doing business. So now is the time for companies to start preparing a roadmap, setting the priorities, and developing budgets so that they can take advantage of these things even during the slower, whether it's stay-at-home time or even if it's limited work hours right now. Now's the time to start that digital transformation. So the more of these seminars that we can do, the more we can educate. We certainly hope to bring this to companies, and hopefully they will take advantage of it. Okay, when we talk about the Accelerator Program, what do we mean by this? To make the transition process as easily as possible, we're offering what we call the Accelerator Program. And the program is going to provide the initial maturity assessment that we talked about and a roadmap customized for each customer that will show you exactly where you stand. To show the proof of value, we will remotely enable IIoT for one of your critical processes or machines so that you'll be able to share within your team and your stakeholders. They can be exposed to the solutions, they can be exposed to the data, and experience the benefits firsthand in order to judge for themselves whether the overall potential for their business is worth the investment or not. We truly believe it is. We're going to share a case study here in a moment that we are working with a local customer on. And then finally, what we hope to do through the training is to provide an online course for whoever within your manufacturing operations and make that what we call an MDM, a certification process. So the goal is to have each customer obtain at least one person within their organization that can become that manufacturing digitization management expert, and whether they continue on with us to implement the roadmap or whether they do something on their own, we at least bring one person to the forefront that is educated and trained on this type of technology. So this is a simple approach. The first, the assessment; the second, the proof of value; and the third, the certification of one of your employees. So that process, if you look at it, we're trying to make this as quick and easy as possible through this Accelerator Program. So from a scheduling and time frame, we can actually, within the digitization and the maturity, we can probably assess that and provide that report to a company within 2 weeks from when they say they would like to get started. The proof of value, implementing some sensor technology in the bike factory, that will take anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks, depending on what we actually agree on, whether it's 1 or 2 machines or what we agree to do. The training itself, the upskill training that we call, is a 30-hour course. So in a relatively short amount of time, a company can assess where they stand, where their knowledge base is, they can compare it with their competitors, they can get a almost like a trial run, if you will, so that they can see what this type of technology is capable of providing for them. And they can also do the training, all in a very, very manageable, short time. And that's something that we've worked very hard to pull that together. This is an example of a case study for a large global leader in the construction heavy vehicle equipment category. The Maxbyte guys hate when I say it, but if you look at the slide, you might actually see the 3 little acronym there. So it's not hard to tell. It's a very well-known company that we've been dealing with. But this is one of the companies that we've already gone through this process with, where we provided the roadmap. We had meetings. This was actually prior to the COVID, where we actually were able to go and meet with them and basically interviewing their personnel, factory visits to ascertain where they really were within the Industry 4.0 roadmap. We delivered a plant-wide discovery workshop with a final report showcasing where they stood, gave that by a department-wise digitization opportunity with a budget, timeline, and what we think the values and the vision should be. They're reviewing that. And from a business value standpoint, they're now better understanding the factory's maturity level. They understand the gaps, and we are working with them now on a final budget to move forward. So companies like this, whether it's large-scale businesses, they're looking at this, they're understanding that they need to implement this type of technology and to bridge those gaps from the as-is state to the to-be state. So again, with a company like this, if they're looking at it, I strongly recommend this is something that all companies should really be investigating. This is actually when we talk about the proof of concept, if you will, or the benefits. This is a local aerospace supplier, heavily in aerospace and defense. They do a lot of work in the military for Humvee, body armor and body panels. I've sold them numerous machines. I actually, when I first started my business, I leased my building from them, so they've become very good friends. But they're a very, very heavy user of Mazak. And as we talked earlier, many of the machine tool builders, the machines I sell have Industry 4.0 included. Same thing with Mazak. But again, the sensors are there. They are not really connected to anything other than an operator who, if he chooses to, can get something sent to an iPad or an iPhone. But they weren't able to do it on a factory-wide level. So what we ended up doing, we came in and through the MT Connect protocol, we installed a ByteSense energy sensing kit and the server, the industrial edge server, that we were able now to provide them full production overall equipment effectiveness analysis, where we're showing them the downtime, the OEE analysis, the runtime, downtime, all of this in very easy to use reporting structures. We're able to show them the machine condition diagnostics, intelligent maintenance, and then the energy monitoring. So these things we've been doing. We installed the technology at the end of the year, last year. We started the monitoring. We had a little bit of a snafu, obviously, with the shutdown of the COVID. But for a good 2.5 months, we've been reviewing this data with them, having weekly conference calls. And from my perspective, following the installation of the hardware and the associated software, being able to give them all this information really opened their eyes to things that they didn't really know that were going on the shop floor. This particular machine, they have 2 of them. It's in a separate building from the main building where the majority of the equipment is. They have about 80 some machine tools, which I would say about 20, 25 of them are the real high-end CNC state-of-the-art machines that are the workhorses. But one of the things that we saw, they were running 2 12-hour shifts when they came back out of the COVID to catch back up on production. And we were seeing that the changeover time on a day shift, where it really was taking and should take no more really than 30 minutes to do a changeover, was sometimes in the evenings taking up to an hour and a half. And this is something that if we hadn't installed these tools, they wouldn't even have exposure to. It's not something that an operator is going to just volunteer. But when they dove into it and looked at the facts behind this, they started to realize that even though their shift was supposed to be starting at 3 o'clock in the morning, sometimes because they were really working them pretty darn hard on these 2 shifts, guys were getting in a little bit later. Things weren't being done the way they liked. So with this system, They're able to actually, and we don't want to be big brother to the point where we're using this information just to beat on people. That's not the goal. But being able to realize what their production goals were, share those with employees, realize what was preventing them from changing parts and the changeover time on the night shift compared to the day shift. They were able to change things around and regain control of what was going on the night shift, even to the point where they're contemplating about maybe eliminating the night shift and running a different way of doing the parts, if you will. But this data, they didn't have access to. They were literally, with machines that are costing, up to $1 million and more, their overall effectiveness was only 53%. With this technology, through the conference calls, through management being aware of what's actually going on, we're now getting them back up around the 70% level, which is way more acceptable. If they can get an extra part or two on a shift, that's going to be huge for them. It's going to be huge for their customers from a delivery standpoint. So again, we're very optimistic. We just had a conference call, a Zoom call with them yesterday, shared all the findings, and we're now looking at going forward and maybe implementing this technology on, we don't know yet whether it's going to be all or a subset of their workhorse machines, and moving forward with them also in some plans and strategies to get a better ERP system in there, do some job reporting, digital job reporting, and program management of the programs, which they currently, it's not being done well at all. So with Maxbyte's expertise, we're bringing these things to the table. We've proven the benefits, and now we're moving forward with them to do the assessment and help them with their continued efforts in Industry 4.0. So I was really impressed with this, and it's something that I'm going to be offering to my sub-dealers, offering to my customers that I deal with directly, because I truly believe this technology is going to be there to help companies be more effective as we come out of this crisis that we've all been in. And this is kind of the program overview that we talked about with the Accelerator Program, where we hope to get the final case is to have an actual person that is what we can say certified as a manufacturing management, distribution management expertise. So again, this is just a program, 30 hours of learning. We'll look at 4 case studies with 10 frameworks and all the things that we've talked about here to make sure that one person within your organization really has got the knowledge and the expertise that we're going to need to work with going forward. All right, what we're going to do now, if we may, is have a quick dialogue between myself and Ram. Again, Ram has been doing this for a long time now. Their company is growing very, very successfully. It's new to the United States over the last year and a half, but they have been, from a lot of the industry experts, they've been touted as a company to watch. They have the experience, and unlike some of the other companies that I've seen that are engaged in IIoT, some of them can offer a subset of what we do. I have yet to see, and we worked on a story with Gardner Publications probably about 6-8 months ago, and we were one of the few that can really do all of the things from cradle to grave, basically. So we're going to go through a quick chat session, and I'll turn it over to Ram. I think he's got a couple questions for me, and then got a couple questions for him. And then we may actually just throw a couple poll questions out to the audience, and then move on to a quick Q&A. But go ahead, Ram.
Yeah, Kevin. So that's a nice presentation from you. So Kevin, so I have a few questions, which I always try to get it from you. From your experience as a machine tool reseller across USA, what are the questions on every USA manufacturing business leaders in their mind right now, especially in this kind of the crisis situation? What are their the top priorities on their mind?
Good one. I think from most of the people that I've spoken with, and I'll be brutally honest as well, with the COVID, it's the actual interactions that I've had are less, because I think people are very front of mind. They're not worrying about, they're more concerned with getting the business back up and running immediately. But with that said, from the people that I have actually spoken with, I think that what's most and foremost at the front of their mind right now is uncertainty. I hate to say it, but uncertainty as to what the pandemic will cause, what effects they're going to have on their business long term. I think many of them that I've spoken to, as I already mentioned, are concerned about what if there were another shutdown? What if they're forced to shut down again? And what is that going to lead to lower demand for their customers? So I think that's the first thing. And the second one, again, being very open, I think is our political situation. Many of the business leaders are concerned about what's going to happen. Will taxes be raised, sanctions put in place? What's the stock market going to react to during these potential changes that come up in any election year? I think those are normal. So to me, there's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of unknowns that in front of mind, that's what they're worrying about. With that said, those same people that I've spoken with, I think there's a general feeling of optimism. And I think that's the spirit of the American tenacity, if you will. These guys have started business. They're survivors. They've spent many years building those businesses. And I think they're also looking for new ways to succeed and prosper, and why I think this type of technology that we're talking about is going to be of interest. Within manufacturing especially, we've always had that spirit of not giving up and that we're going to succeed despite the setbacks. And that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing, even though there's uncertainty, I'm seeing a lot of confidence. And there was a CEO briefing that reported that I read the other day that business conditions a year from now has now returned, their projection for business conditions and an optimism has returned to pre-COVID levels. So back in January, everybody thought that 12 months from now, business conditions were going to be really strong. Then when the COVID hit, those projections plummeted. But they've started to come back up now. So that, again, I think is telling me that there's been less bankruptcies than people forecasted. I think the original forecasts were too pessimistic. I think future business conditions are going to be strong. And I think that's what a lot of people are seeing right now. We're also hearing on the news, there's a little bit of optimism for at least the potential of vaccine, or the conditions, are going to be a little bit brighter than what we've all heard on the news. So I think that lastly, that COVID situation has impacted all of us. I think a lot of people, as we said earlier, talking about how they can work remotely. I think they're looking at when the crisis is over, that may still impact their business, how they can do health checks, employee and customer safety, as I talked about on one of the other slides, the social distancing. All of those, I think, are going to remain hot topics over the next 12, 24, 36 months once the pandemic hopefully is over. I mean, I think it's amazing how people have changed from nobody's shaking hands anymore. I'm a shaker of hands, I'm a hugger of people. And we've all stopped doing that. Yeah, you subconsciously, you throw the elbow out there, or you may throw the knuckle bump out there. And I think that whether it's in a restaurant or whether it's in manufacturing, those things are not going to go away overnight. And that's where I think that this uncertainty that they may have, but the positive optimism that they have, I think that the majority of manufacturing companies are going to survive. Some may not, the majority will. So from my standpoint, I think that's what I see on their mind is uncertainty to begin with. But based on that, once they've got over that initial shock, they're really looking at how can we do things differently? How can we do things smarter? And how are we going to take care of our workforce? Those are the things that I've seen right now.
Yeah, that's a great thought, Kevin. So I was, talking to one of a business leader about this. What he said, we have all every a decade or 20 years once we are seeing some uncertainties. For example, the 2000 burst, and also 2011 issue and 2008 recession. One of the business leader told that yes, in every uncertainty we were able to come out of that with a reinvention or an innovation in the industry. So likewise, in your opinion, what are some of the key elements a company should focus on restarting or reinvent them to manage the new future of USA manufacturing?
Okay, another good question. Good question. I think I've touched on a little bit, but maybe I can expand it. I see manufacturing companies, somewhat no different than restaurants, bars, hair salons, and other businesses, quite frankly. I think the first step, and I touched on this earlier, that I think all businesses have to do is regain the consumer confidence, if you will. They have to regain the confidence of their own employees, that when those employees, for example, a restaurant, my wife and I, we eat out all the time. And you look at some of the staffing problems that they had as they restarted back up. Many of the employees were fearful of coming back to work, maybe not for themselves, but maybe they had loved ones that were like myself. My mother is 88 years old. She has a little bit of immune deficiency. So I'm not so much worried about me catching the virus, but I'm worried about me maybe transferring that, if I were to get it, to a loved one or a relative, et cetera. And I think that's where most businesses, to start with, whether they recognize it or not, is they're bringing more and more of their employees back to work. They've got to start to have that confidence that those people are going to be coming back to a safe environment. Second step in my mind is they've got to figure out how to improve productivity. They have to figure out how to reduce costs wherever possible, because so many of the companies, whether it's, again, I don't care what industry it's in, we've all been hit hard with this. Being shut down for 2 to 3 months is hitting all of our bottom lines. And they've got to figure out a way to rebuild the wealth within their company. They've got to be able to efficiently, during this downturn, figure out how they can come out of it better, how they can be better positioned. So I see this, and if I break it down and say in 5 areas maybe, that people workforce, management, ownership of the company has, in my opinion, got to figure out a way to communicate to those employees whatever steps they've put in place. One of the restaurants we go to has got I don't know if it's an ultraviolet wand of some kind, that once they've wiped down all the tables and the chairs, it double checks that there's no residue or virus or things of that nature. If you knew how many people who have commented, wow, that's really, really good, we're going to come back here. I haven't seen any of the restaurants I go to that have gone to that level, but the fact that they differentiated and that they're doing that, it made a difference to their customers. So I think that's step one. How do we make sure that the employees coming back to work feel safe, that they are going to be in an environment that is not going to contribute to the spread to them, to their families? That's first one. Second one, I think we need to look at the supply chain, because if you're going to be doing that for your own company, you've got to figure out how vendors and suppliers are also compliant. What are they doing to make sure that their workforce, that when they interact with your employees, your company, that they're not going to be bringing something in? No matter how diligent you are, if somebody else isn't being diligent, that's the whole big debate right now on everybody should be wearing masks, et cetera. But I think that supply chain, we've got to figure that out. I think that on the profitability side, the productivity side, we have to really look at the assets that we have in our company. For the example of what we did with the pilot program here with my local company. If they're only operating at a 53% effectiveness, that's terrible when they're investing that kind of money. So how can companies truly look at how effective is their equipment? That's huge. They have to become more productive with the equipment they have. Also, are you able to, as people are coming back into work and we may not have a full workforce, there has to be a way for companies to evaluate the employees that they do have. Are they matched up to the jobs that they need to have done today? I know that was one of the topics of discussion with the pilot program, the company that we're dealing with. In a perfect world, if they can say, hey, I've got these employees that are here and I know I've got these jobs that need to be done, and that can help a way to automate that, I think that's going to be big for them. I think also working remotely. As we said earlier, are the tools and the equipment and the systems in place for the employees that can work from home, enabling them to do so? I think that's going to be huge. Compliance management. I know certainly again, within the food industry, it's probably more prevalent than within manufacturing, but I can absolutely envision that there are going to be situations where we have to be able to comply with the state mandates for employee safety. How are companies doing that? How do they have automated systems that let them do that? Or is it going to be something that is going to be unmanageable? How are they doing that both for their employees, their customers, and their suppliers? Yeah. And lastly, I think I would focus on in any crisis, you mentioned earlier coming out of a crisis, and I think being an English born, well, actually born in Norway, raised in England, and I chose to become an American citizen. I still think we are one of the strongest countries. We have that attitude of we can come out better and stronger out of everything. And in uncertain times, communication is absolutely critical. And how our owners of companies, how our managers, the management team of the company, how are they communicating these goals and these things that we've talked about to their employees? How are they communicating their health and safety programs? How are they communicating their goals to get back up on full production? I think the more that you can communicate within the organization, that's going to be key as these companies come out of this COVID pandemic. So there's 4 or 5 things that my suggestion would be.
Right. Yeah, that's a great thought, Kevin, on the areas of innovation, manufacturing business leaders to think into it to come out of this crisis. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I was going to do, we're running, right on schedule here, but I'm not going to do a poll, but I'm going to quickly, I'd also got a couple of questions for Ram. Again, you've been involved now as a global industrial IoT solutions provider with a lot of experience. We're just getting started with you guys here in the States, but how do you see the digital technology and how do you believe that that can help manufacturers to sustain, how to restart and manage and grow their businesses, especially after this COVID-19? How do you see the technology portion coming to bear?
Yeah, even you have spoke about that in one of your slides. Digitization is no more a good to have, it's must have. You know why? As I just want to, quote some of the technologies mapping to some of the points what you have told. For example, you were talking about the people workforce readiness, right? So because the people's safety is now very important to the business, because only if we have the people inside the manufacturing, we can able to produce it, and then only we can able to ship it and get the money and then make the cash flow running. So in that case, people safety plays a key role in the current crisis. So for that, the technologies like the facial recognition, based on that, how can we, detect and help the people to help each other, help the person and also the other person to ensure that we have, the healthy person in the manufacturing shop floor. So that will, help to ensure the operations is always running in the system. So such kind of smart, connected, healthy workforce systems are required, even along with the RFID based technologies and video analytics technologies. Nowadays it's available. Even we have those kind of products and services what we are deploying to our customer. So that really help the management team to check whether the individuals are maintaining the social distancing. Are they on a timely basis? Are they getting the sanitizers? And then are they taking the health checkup in the timely manner? So these are the very critical things required for to manage the workforce, especially in this kind of a situation. The second thing I would like to even correlate with one of your statement is on the remote workforce. For example, in a manufacturing use case, if you say, I'll just take only 2 use cases for the discussion purpose. So production monitoring. Of course, the supervisors are nowadays in the shop floor. So why can't the supervisors at least, 50% of the time can remotely operate from home and then manage their operations and guide their operators and ensure the productivity is available? Because nowadays, as we did a proof of concept in Cincinnati for one of the, aerospace supplier. So all the OE, like overall equipment effectiveness parameters, production part code, even the job can be remotely pushed to the operator. When such technologies are available, why can't the manufacturing industry can immediately use it and help the employees as well to maintain the social distancing and the manage the productivity as well. Another use case I would like to quote in terms of remote workforces, in terms of maintenance. Hardly maintenance in terms of the assets in the production, also the energy and utilities maintenance. A person has to go around the factory in daily basis and check the the oil level of a machine, or the regular maintenance, the energy consumptions, whether the utilities are working correctly or not. So but with the help of the industrial digitization or industrial IoT technologies, we can mount sensors on each devices and get the data, so that the remote person, the maintenance team can operate remotely and with the help of condition monitorings and predictive analytics. And then only if it is something really there is a problem, they can go to the site. And even when they go to the site using the technology like augmented reality, they can quickly understand how to assemble or disassemble or fix a thing, so that they can be more non-touch based maintenance they can able to do it. So this is a way where a remote workforce can operate in future further, so that it helps in the health perspective. Also, it's not affecting the productivity of manufacturing. Another area you are talking about, the compliance. Already all the industries are very well certified or focused on environmental health and safety. But now, after the COVID or the corona, or during this situation, we have another kind of a criteria, the social distancing, and then the new norms of EHS trainings has coming up. So even the management team can think about the virtual reality based EHS training, because now you have very limited time to operate the factory. In this time, you need to give the training, and they need to understand and follow those norms. If such kind of a virtual reality based trainings are available, they help them to quickly understand the things on the EHS stuff and go to the work as soon as possible. The last part, Kevin, you're talking about the communication. Yes, of course. As a crisis, the first step is important is the communication to all the stakeholders in the company, even from shop floor to top floor. So in that, why can't a manufacturing leader or the management can introduce one mobile app kind of a solution, where an individual can get the health and safety tips, and how to operate in a factory, and what are the procedures to be done, and whether the factories are open or closed on what time basis. And in the same app, they can give access like a single sign on for the access to the remote machines and to their other enterprise applications. I feel we are all deploying this kind of a technology for last 4.5 years and above, specifically on industrial digitization. Now we are seeing this is the kind of a priority technology need in the industry, so that they can regain the production and go for the next steps in the future. That's my quick thoughts, Kevin, on this area.
Perfect. No, really good. It's interesting when you mentioned communication, something just hit me as well, because it only took probably, I'm guessing now, maybe 2.5 weeks into the COVID pandemic, when you started to see on the television all the national chains, the restaurants, the pizza delivery places, they were changing the message that they were giving to their customers, and all of a sudden it was contact-free delivery. They were all talking about the things that they're doing to help sanitize and prevent the spread of the virus. And it just hit me that you talked about that can become a marketing tool to differentiate their product from their competitors. And that's also something through the tools that you're talking about, that if we're proactive, a manufacturer can even use that type of approach if he were to incorporate all these types of technologies, the technologies to keep his workforce safe and healthy, and his supply chain the same way. You can almost turn that into a positive. It just hit me. Turning it into a positive that you can share on your website. Many of the websites you go to, there's a COVID-19 update. That would be a really good way to show your customers and your supply chain the things that you're doing and how that you are basically coming out of this crisis better and stronger. And that one just hit me as well, that I think it's a benefit. But lastly, one more quick question. What's your recommendation then? If I am a manufacturing company who wants to transform, sees that he wants to go to digital, sees the benefits of Industry 4.0, quickly, what's your elevated speech on how they should go about doing that?
Yeah, sure, Kevin. Before I'm saying into the way of transformation, I'd like to say the other way. What are the typical reasons? Many companies are starting digitization or thinking about the automation point of view, but most of the time they are getting failed. So that is something very important things to be addressed. So what are the reasons of the failures? That's something we need to relook into it. So from our experience, we have found 4 major reasons why an organization are not structurally move into a digital transformation journey. The first stuff is there are too many ideas available inside the organization. Whenever we talk about an innovation or a reinvention, the people started sharing the ideas. Yes, of course, that's required. All the ideas are valuable, but too many ideas and also the too many platforms available in the market. Hey, there is a platform X, platform Y, and so there is a sensor technology, there are artificial intelligence technology. So which one is really important for my organization and for my strategic goals and for my current crisis situation? So this is something people has to think through. This is one of the reason, if it is not captured, the digital journey is not good for the organization. Similarly, the other stuff is the system, whatever people try to implement is not in a structured way. One particular department, say maintenance team, may have some idea and deploy those solution in one direction. Production team will deploy, say, production OE in other direction. HRM department will bring some skills and deploy in another. So there is a structured approach available, which is not efficient way to transform an organization. Another stuff is there is no visibility about what is the capabilities available in the manufacturing, the shop floor area. So what are my machines? You may have a CNC machine, you may have a special purpose machine, you may have a very old conventional legacy machines. So what are those capabilities? In which are those machines I can take data, which are those machines I cannot take data? And also not only in the shop floor, and also in the utility side. If you have electricity, water, thermal, gas, all these utilities are coming into the system. So how can I take data from all the systems? So we need to understand the capabilities also. So without knowing the capabilities, it's not advisable to go into the digitization also. And also the last but not the least, the people are going to drive the digital journey in an organization. So the skill improvement for any individual in an organization is really important. As like the olden days, people were learning about Excels. They were learning about the process approach. So similarly, now people used to learn about how to manage my factory with digital. What are the tools involved so that I can quickly analyze the data and take those decisions. So these are the 4 areas I personally have seen in my experience. The people are lagging when they start digital journey actually. So keeping this in mind, for the last 2 years, we have come up with a model called, we call it as Maxbyte Industry 4.0 Accelerator Program. So we made it in a very structured approach, as you have also explained in the presentation. The first step itself, what is my strategic goal? Okay, the next, first is on the strategy, next on the technology. What is my strategy? What I want to achieve this year, and from now to the next 5 years, what I want to do as the business. So for that, what are the technologies I needed, and why I have to do this, and how I have to do it? What are the technology I need to implement? These are the basic discovery a company has to do, along with making some proof of values and also educating some of the skills to the individual. So from there, they can go to the next step and identify it as per the roadmap. They can go for they can identify which are the top departments or functionals. They need to deploy few use cases which become the foundation or building blocks for their digitization. So from there, they can able to scale up to multiple use cases like predictive analytics or artificial intelligence based root cause analysis for a maintenance problem. So those things can scale up the step-by-step procedure. So discover, start with few use cases, then scale up, then deploy, extend to other value chain of the manufacturing network. So this is the way we personally feel an organization should really think into their digital transformation journey.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. But what we will say is we're going to be doing more of these seminars, that we will get information out to you guys. If anybody is interested, we do obviously have brochures and catalogs and things that explain a little bit more detail on each of the things that we've talked about, especially the Accelerator, Industry 4.0, Accelerator Program, the Health, Safe Workforce, etc. So we have that information if you need it. And then also, for anybody that does want it, we're willing to do up to a 60-minute consultation and demos for any of the solutions that Maxbyte brings to the table. So, but we truly appreciate everybody joining us today, and we will include you on future seminars. And again, thank you, and we hope it's been at least educational. Thank you very much, guys, and everybody have a great weekend.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Have a good day. Bye.